All right. So thanks again very much for everyone that's tuning in. And again, thank you very much for our first professional speaker, Dr. Nandor, longtime friend of mine. Dr. Nandor, good seeing you tonight. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Good.
Hi, everyone.
So tonight I decided to a last minute invite for some of my past participants that enrolled in the 45-day gut reset, along with the Living Legends audience and my email newsletter list. So we might see some late stragglers to come in. I just wanted to add more value for their journey, just because whenever you speak, it's literally like a fire hose of information, and listening to you once is never enough. And every time you listen and learn, you're going to learn more and more and more. So I just wanted to add more value for some extended audience.
Appreciate the kind words.
All right. So with all that being said, I will introduce Dr. Nandor. Dr. Nandor Bajuz is a PhD in functional medicine and holistic nutrition. You've been practicing for well over 25 years. He's a dear, dear friend of mine and mentor. In fact, one of my first mentors. And Dr. Nandor put me on this path of development in the holistic medicine, the holistic nutrition field well over a decade ago. We were longtime friends. I myself had gut issues, and not so much gut issues. There was a time when it was really bad, but more so ongoing allergies. When I moved back from Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, that's when we really put together a cool protocol and really helped me. And that started my path in education in this field to where I am still today. Dr. Nandor got a full ride scholarship for tennis at the University of San Antonio in Texas. Is that correct?
University of Texas at San Antonio, and it was an athletic and an academic scholarship. It was both.
Right, which is quite the achievement for one, let alone two. You wrote your one of your master's thesis well over 25 years ago on leaky gut. Correct me if I'm wrong. Leaky gut, the underlying catalyst for degenerative disease.
It was 20 years ago, 21 years ago that I wrote it. It was my master's thesis. It was entitled Leaky Gut Syndrome, the Underlying Catalyst to Countless Health Disorders.
Got it. And whenever I say this, not a lot of people knew what leaky gut was over 20 years ago. And you had been educating yourself and understanding it for quite some time prior to that. Is that correct?
You know what? I got really lucky. I mean, I started in this business really in 96. And so I've been about doing this for 25 years, not over 25. It's been about 25. But so I was really fortunate because I had some fantastic teachers, and, they were teaching me about leaky gut being a serious problem, and it being ultimately the root cause of all chronic illness. So I think I just got really fortunate, and I found the right teachers and mentors early on. And that's why I was all over it right from the beginning. And that's why I had so much success for years while I was at my office, which was for 22 years. And since COVID, I'm now working out of my home. But for the longest time in my office, people would come see me, and they would always say, why is it that anywhere from 50 to 85% of what I was saying was brand new to them? And they'd never heard of this leaky gut stuff before. And whether it was, your average person, your weekend warrior, your stay-at-home mom, your professional athlete, it didn't matter. Even professionals, chiros, some that came to me, different backgrounds and disciplines, they really hadn't heard much about it either. So I'm really excited to see now that it's so prevalent and talked about, and you have taken on the role of gut whisperer, which is very exciting, right? Because if people are listening to what you're saying, they will absolutely experience benefit, tremendous benefit, getting right to the source of the problem.
Well, and let's go back to you just a little bit more. Educating yourself at such an early on stage, you really learned from the true renegades and pioneers in functional medicine, from Dr. Bland, Dr. Perlmutter, Dr. Rakowski. These are all essentially the first real professionals in the functional medicine space.
Yes. I mean, I think functional medicine may have started in the late 80s, and I tuned into it in around 97. if I'm correct as far as when functional medicine was initiated. And as you said, Dr. Bland, he's the godfather of functional medicine. So we go at and look at him to see when he started his presentations on it and so forth. So yeah, like I said, I was really fortunate. I had some really good mentors, and I was told to go study functional medicine as soon as I could. And when I had the opportunity, I did, and I did for 17 years. I studied functional medicine until about 2015, fairly consistently.
You actually put me on to this book. This is the first ever functional medicine book that I ever read. Disease Delusion by Dr. Bland. That's right.
It's not, listen, that's a difficult read. It's not an easy read.
It is a difficult read.
It's not an easy read to start with because Dr. Bland is such a brilliant guy, but I'm glad you read it. And I would recommend anyone to read it if they're really interested in the hardcore nuts and bolts, all the science, all the difficult science behind functional medicine. And that's the idea, is that it's evidence-based, science-based natural medicine. This is where, many mainstream medicine thinking practitioners are under the understanding that natural medicine has no science behind it. And that's not true. So functional medicine bridges that gap, that misunderstanding. And, those who finish medical school and want to learn about natural medicine, they go study functional medicine. And again, it's all evidence-based, science-based. And there's nobody more that's more evidence-based, science-based than Dr. Bland. But yeah, Dr. Perlmutter, Dr. Rakowski, there's many others.
Right.
That,
and actually,
legends.
I do reference a lot of the books in this program for everyone in the gut reset. So there's a lot of resources with books. So, so let's just talk about that. And then that way you can sort of headway the conversation and, how everyone is supposed to follow through with this. So everyone has successfully completed a 3-day juice cleanse. Some are finishing today and some have finished yesterday. And with the first week, we're incorporating a very ketogenic, very low glycemic index, but we're introducing some easy to digest vegetables and plant sourced foods, all while focusing on intermittent fasting as well. So why don't we start with, you so brilliantly discuss the oral hygiene, because that's where the microbiome starts. And then we'll go into the protocol and then supplementation. And then I would love to go into a couple autoimmune topics, but we'll go into that a little bit later on.
We're filled with bacteria. We're 10 times more bacteria than we are human cells. So I wouldn't be surprised if, bacteria or the microbiome didn't start in the mouth. It actually started, further up into the brain and so forth. But let's just start with the mouth, because we can address the mouth. And so the very best way to optimize your oral microbiome is not through scope and Listerine and fluoridated toothpaste and this type of stuff, because all that does is exactly the opposite. It destroys your microbiome balance, your diversity. And remember what causes cavities. Bacteria causes cavities. So if you use scope and Listerine and this type of stuff, fluoridated toothpaste, all you're really doing is creating an environment for bacteria to grow that's going to cause you cavities. Another thing that I have not done in 21 years has been to the dentist, right? And the reason is because my protocol works. And 21 years ago, when I was at the dentist, he had said to me, the reason I was there was I had 4 cavities that I wanted replaced with the porcelain from the mercury, because I had the mercury put in when I was about 13 or 14. So he said, this tooth up here, I'm going to be needing a root canal within 6 months to a year. And I had receding gums. And so I was going to need gum graft surgery again within 6 months to a year. And that was 21 years ago. I haven't been back since. So, you could say, wow, this guy was just like lying to you. No, he wasn't lying to me at all. It's just, he was telling me what he sees in his clinical practice, in his setting, when he looks at a mouth and he sees the way my teeth and gums were looking at the time. So I had to kick it into high gear and do some things differently, because if I didn't, then I'd be going back in 6 months to a year to do what he was suggesting. I'm not a fan of the dentist. Nobody is. So if I can avoid it, I will do at all cost. And the number one thing I will tell you guys is 3% food grade hydrogen peroxide. Right here. Everybody see that? 3% food grade hydrogen peroxide. So you can get 3% hydrogen peroxide, but it's not food grade at Shoppers Drug Mart, but that's not what you want. You want the food grade. And you just swish with it morning and night. And that does an unbelievable job of creating an environment so that your oral microbiome, the diversity is one that's conducive to having healthy gums and teeth. So that's the number one thing you want to do. Again, because, and we're talking about the mouth because that's where the digestive system begins, right? So that's the number one thing you want to do. In addition, so you want to do that at least once a day, once or twice a day, 2-3 minutes at a time. In addition to that, you want to, some kind of organic toothpaste. The Organo Gold one is probably the best toothpaste I've ever tried. What I also do is I take a little container and I mix baking soda and Himalayan salt. Mix the two together, maybe like a 50-50 ratio, right? And then take a little bit and sprinkle it on top of the tiny amount of toothpaste that I put on my toothbrush and brush away with that. So that combination with swishing with the 3% food grade hydrogen peroxide in conjunction with the gut-friendly diet is really what's going to give you healthy gums and teeth. And ultimately what you're looking for, which is a healthy gastrointestinal tract, which ultimately will give you a healthy existence.
That's great. So what you're saying is essentially the food grade hydrogen peroxide should be
3%.
3% food grade should be a replacement for conventional mouthwash.
I would say absolutely, if you want to look at it that way, as a replacement for Scopel Listerine. Remember, mainstream medicine is a downstream symptom treating model. So what it wants to do is kill the bacteria that is causing the problem in your mouth. The problem is it kills everything along with it as well, and allows or creates dysbiosis in your mouth. Whereas this, right, 3% food grade hydrogen peroxide, it kills the bad bacteria while at the same time creating a friendly bacterial environment that is conducive to healthy gums and teeth.
I was actually, let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, there it is. I was reading this book here, The pH Miracle. It's an old one. It's quite dated, but it's,
oh, that's okay. It's accurate information.
Yeah. He's got some really good information, and he talks about the power of being in an alkaline state. And there's a couple of chapters about adding hydrogen peroxide food grade to your water, spraying it in your mouth. Obviously, of course, the connection and the correlation with vegetables and fruit, but being in an alkaline state is so beneficial. Do you want to just, talk about that really quickly?
Yeah. So there's a misunderstanding, when you say that and an MD hears you suggest that the alkaline state is the state to be, they will tell you that even the sickest people, 99% of them come back alkaline. And what they are saying is that their blood is alkaline. Of course, their blood is alkaline, because if it wasn't alkaline, then they would seizure, coma, then death as the pH kept dropping lower and lower. So what we are really talking about when we are talking about being alkaline is having enough alkaline buffers or bicarb buffers to neutralize the acids that we are creating on a daily basis just by breathing, eating, and simple metabolism, metabolism of food, of just our existence. So we need to be able to neutralize those acids. If we can't neutralize those acids, then the body breaks down. So you look at any kind of a chronic autoimmune condition, disease condition, and there's that person is not going to have enough alkaline buffers. That person is going to be acidic. And so the simplest way to test for that is through saliva. It's just an oral strip. You put the saliva on the oral strip and you measure it to see, where you come in at. And most people do not come in where ideally we want people coming in at, which is somewhere close to 7, maybe just a little bit above 7. Most people come in at 6 or below. Cancer patients are usually coming in the 5s, right? So it just goes to show, and especially if you're using 3% food grade hydrogen peroxide, that's also really going to help ensure that you are nice and alkaline systemically.
Actually, really quick, I don't want to go too off course, but Taylor's wife, Sarah, after doing this protocol, she also incorporated the reishi coffee, and she had a recent visit to her dentist, and he couldn't believe how alkaline her mouth was. And she said that she had like she's done the protocol and she's very health
Yeah,
conscious, but she's made the change to that reishi coffee, and that actually improved the alkalinity as well.
but for sure. Listen, the as we both know, the Organo Gold products, the Organo Gold coffee, uh, everything that Organo Gold sells and you can consume, it's all none of it is acid forming, right? Nothing that is beneficial to your health is going to be acid forming. Everything that is beneficial to your health is going to be alkalizing to some extent. Now, remember, the pH scale goes from 0 to 14. So when we say alkaline, we're not talking 14, right? We're talking something close to 7, because that's where we want to be consistently.
Got it. All right. So now that we've somewhat covered the oral microbiome, the next part of the stage and the steps that everyone does is they just try to wake up first thing in the morning. Obviously, I want to talk about tongue scraping really, really quick. And then, but more so after that is water with lemon. Why?
Well, for exactly that reason, right? So it's water, lemon, and actually baking soda, right? 1 teaspoon of baking soda, squeeze half a lemon, quarter of a lemon into some water, down the two together. And this is fantastic for, it's really interesting how it works. Lemon increases your stomach acid production, which is what you want. But once it's metabolized in the stomach, it's systemically becomes alkalizing. So lemon is such a fantastic food, but you can even make it better if you combine it with baking soda. 1 teaspoon of baking soda, lemon and water, first thing in the morning to start off the day. And then, I'm assuming that we are talking about, pursuing intermittent fasting afterwards.
For this week, yes, absolutely. We'll go into that. Absolutely. So why don't then we talk about the benefits of intermittent fasting, why it's so hot as a topic right now. And I often see, just in my travels and my open ears, you hear conversations, people saying, oh, I'm fasting, or they're trying intermittent fasting. And a lot of times people are still getting it wrong. They're getting a little confused. They're missing some of the concepts. So for this first week, they get a whole bunch of meal options, and we'll discuss that later, but they've got 3 options for intermittent fasting, the 3 different types that you discuss. So why don't you talk about those 3 different options for intermittent fasting, and then obviously the benefits and how one can incorporate the intermittent fasting into their lifestyle. Because after this conversation, that's how everyone is going to incorporate the meals based on your teachings and what feels most comfortable for them.
Okay, so I don't know exactly what you mean by 3 different.
Oh, well, the 3 different, the eating windows. The most extreme being, what was it? 16 and 8, correct?
Well, that's not the most extreme. That's the bare minimum, right? So what you want to do is you start out with a 12-hour fast. And the reason it's 12 hours, it's because, we got to learn to crawl before we can get up and run, right? So we start off fasting at 12 hours and we work our way ideally to the understanding that we want to fast for 16 hours. And the reason we want to fast for 16 hours is because at 16 hours, we start to create what's called mitophagy and autophagy. So autophagy is the body's ability to naturally cleanse itself, and mitophagy is the mitochondria's natural ability to cleanse itself. And these things happen at 16 hours of fasting. That's why we go from 12, we work our way to 16, and then from there, whatever you can do, 17, 18, some people get really brave, they do 19, 20, 21, even 22. I just don't recommend that people go past 24, because if you do, you may start losing some muscle, right? And so muscle tissue is important to hold on to. You don't want to be losing it. So intermittent fasting, 12 hours is where we start. We try to get or work our way to 16. And once we hit 16, we try to get to 17, 18, 19, 20, whatever we can do. So the difference is your eating window. So in other words, if you fast for 18 hours, then your eating window is 6 hours. And in those 6 hours, depending on what you're eating, you can hugely influence your body, of course, and to a large extent, because you are hopefully going to regain your, hold on a second, it's coming to me.
Metabolic flexibility.
Metabolic flexibility. Thank you very much. It's exactly what I wanted to say. And this is really important. So metabolic flexibility is your ability to metabolize fat as efficiently as you can metabolize carbohydrates. So if your whole life you've been eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you've been more of a carbohydrate consumer than anything else, then you've lost your ability to metabolize fat. You need to regain this. And it's going to take you a little bit of time, but as you follow the steps that Brandon lays out, slowly but surely, you will regain that flexibility. And with regaining this flexibility, inflammation drops as well. So dropping inflammation, regaining metabolic flexibility, regaining insulin sensitivity, you get so many benefits from the intermittent fasting. And then, of course, what you're eating, throughout your eating window. But your eating window, your body is designed to eat during that eating window. It's not designed to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's designed to eat during that window. So it's just going to take a little bit of time to get used to doing it this way. But as you get used to it, and once your body adapts, you're well on your way.
Now, what about being anabolic and releasing growth factors when you're in a fasted state? Can you expand on that? Because again, I really want you to drive home how incredibly powerful intermittent fasting can be for people and individuals.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's not just intermittent fasting. I mean, fasting itself, right? The only thing is, what I tell people is if they have a serious illness, if they can fast for 3 days, I think the literature is fairly clear on this. If you can fast for 3 days, 72 hours, you will do a serious amount of good for yourself. It's not necessary, again, unless you've got a serious illness that you are fighting. And again, less is more, right? The less we eat, the longer we live. Again, and it's not just per meal 6 times or 8 times a day. That's kind of doing it backwards. We want to have multiple hours throughout the day where we are comfortable at not eating, just drinking black coffee, black tea, green tea, water and lemon, baking soda, just consuming these things to get us through the day, get us through until we are ready to eat. The growth hormone elevation, testosterone elevation, these types of things during the fasted state. I don't know the particulars, Brandon, you might know that actually better than I do, but yes, all of these things improve. Just remember, when insulin sensitivity improves, everything else goes the other direction. And this is exactly what happens while you're intermittent fasting. Ideally, when you are during your eating window, you are having a ketogenic diet of sorts, low lectin ketogenic keto carnivore diet, as opposed to a high carbohydrate one, because you want to really tighten up that insulin sensitivity and regain your metabolic flexibility. So that's what we're doing strategically. And again, for everyone that's on the call, and again, the past graduates, how we've done it, but those that are in the program right now, this is all strategically. So we're going to reintroduce carbohydrates on the 3rd week through some carb backloading and some carb cycling. By that time, we can assume that some insulin sensitivity has increased, and they're going to be in a much better position to metabolize these carbohydrates. That's right. So carb cycling, week 3, that's a great idea. Carb cycling is basically no carbs for 5 days, 6 days. And then you have some carbs 1 to 2 days on the weekend. And that's usually the time that people want to enjoy themselves a little bit.
Right.
Go to a friend's house, go to hopefully a restaurant, but if open,
right.
And enjoy themselves. Right.
Yeah.
So carb cycling is actually very beneficial.
So really
but
quick,
initially you want to regain that insulin sensitivity, that metabolic flexibility before you start consuming carbs again.
Right. You want to just quickly reiterate and reinforce what you can and cannot have when you are fasting in that window, when you're not, like when you're trying to achieve that autophagy?
So again, the only thing you want to avoid calories. As soon as you have calories, I think there might be like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 calories. This is where the lemon juice is okay. If you try to consume several lemons during your fasting state, then you're going to throw yourself out of the fasted state. So really the key to remember is no calories. That's why I have to do the same thing as get used to drinking coffee black, right? I like drinking coffee black, or I just like drinking coffee in general because it pushes my ability to fast for an extra couple of hours, right? Pushes it back an extra 2, 3, sometimes even 4 hours. So that's the main reason why, I drink coffee. I personally, the taste of coffee, I could do without. I don't mind coffee ice cream or a coffee, chocolate kind of a thing, but I'm not really a coffee guy. But for the benefit of allowing me to fast the duration that I would like to fast and all the benefits that comes with it, it's absolutely worth it. So that's if you're not a coffee lover. If you are a coffee lover, just remember to drink it black, teas, black, calories. That's what you want to avoid while you are fasting. That's the key.
Great. And my dogs are going off in the background, but one of the things, the common theme that I mentioned in this program that I want everyone to really drive home is the understanding that we're technically no longer going to try to eat food for enjoyment. We're not going to drink coffee or beverages for enjoyment. We're going to try to consume them for fuel first, understanding how our bodies can act on them. And then we can address, the flavors and the luxuries sort of thing afterwards. But predominantly, just the same with you with the black coffee, same with me. I don't absolutely love and adore it, but I know the benefits behind it. So that just makes it more enjoyable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially, listen, if you're not a coffee drinker, OrganoGold has wonderful teas and even other beverages, but the coffee is great combined with the intermittent fasting because it pushes you an extra couple of hours. And you can have as many coffees as you want throughout the day, as long as it's good quality coffee, ideally OrganoGold coffee, because that is your best bet. Yeah. And so there are no limits in how many coffees you can have throughout the day.
I also use it
calorie free.
I also use it as a pre-workout too. It's great.
Right. That's right. That's high performance stuff.
Good. Okay. So I will, after this conversation, when you leave, I'm going to talk to everyone on the call independently about some strategies for meal times when they're going to incorporate it based on their lifestyle. So why don't we go into the supplement protocol, because now they're all going to be introducing foods and now they're ready to start to follow the protocol. So what consists of their supplements? They have vitamin D, vitamin A, iodine, digestive enzymes in the wide spectrum from Nutrifarm. They also have, they get a complimentary box of coffee or tea from Organo. And then the crux of the program is the Acid Pro, the stomach acid supplement.
Right. So if we go in order of from top to bottom, so the mouth came first. We talked about that with the 3% food grade and what you're going to brush your teeth with, the combination of the organic toothpaste, baking soda, Himalayan salt. And then from there, we hit the stomach. And in the stomach, we need to make sure that we're making sufficient stomach acid. In 25 years of clinical practice, I've never met anybody who walked into my office and had normal stomach acid function. Because if they had normal stomach acid function, they would not be walking in asking me for help, right? So the first thing that we want to do is figure out how low each person's stomach acid is and address it from there. And then through the betaine HCl protocol, bring your stomach acid levels up to ideal levels and then hold them there. We don't want too much acid either. And you can experience too much acid. But once Brandon gets back, we'll explain how to get around that, how to make sure that you don't have too much stomach acid. So the betaine HCl protocol, I'll just take you through it very quickly. The way it works is after your meal, you take one betaine HCl capsule. So depending on how many meals you eat in a day, and it really shouldn't be more than one or two. So what you do is you take one after your first meal, then you take two after your second meal, whether it's the same day or the second day, then three, your third meal, four, your fourth meal, five, your fifth meal. And what you are looking for is a warming sensation. If you do not experience a warming sensation at five, don't worry about it. Don't go any higher than five. What you want to do is just consistently take five with every meal, and eventually you will create that warming sensation. Now, once you create that warming sensation, you're going to drop down to four, and you'll be taking four with every meal until four is a problem. And then you drop down to three until three is a problem, drop down to two until two is a problem, then drop down to one until one's a problem. And then you avoid it completely for a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then add one per meal only. And, do that to keep it in balance, to keep your stomach acid levels where we want them to be. Because if you stop taking it completely, then eventually you're going to go back to where you started, wherever that may be. Now, here's the thing. If you are doing this protocol and you take three and you get a warming sensation, then your number is two. We want you to not be in any kind of discomfort or any kind of pain, but we definitely want to make sure that we are working on increasing and optimizing your stomach acid output. So if you had an issue at three, then your number would be two, and you would stay at two until two is a problem, drop to one, and so on and so forth. Now, here's the thing. Here's what's interesting. If you have a problem at three, that doesn't mean that you have a lot of stomach acid, more than, someone who, would experience a warming sensation at 7 or 8 or even higher. It oftentimes means just the opposite. It means an atrophied stomach. You could have H. pylori. We're not sure, but, we're going to take it one step at a time, nice and easy, nice and slow. Go to five. If five doesn't do anything for you, stay with five. If any other numbers below five, you reach the warming sensation, just remember that is your cue, that you want to be one number below that your next meal, and stay at that number until you get a warming sensation again, and keep dropping until you get down to one.
Now, for everyone that's in the program right now, I know this part could be very overwhelming for you. It was for me when Dr. Nander and I did this. It took sometimes many texts just throughout, just with some guidance. So don't worry. That is what I'm here for during the program as well, just to make sure to guide you, because everyone is different, right? Dr. Nander, there's no technical cookie cutter for this part of the program, because everyone responds differently.
This is just it. Yeah. I mean, look, the highest I've ever seen anybody go was that they went up to 30 or 35. And then I realized, some people outliers are going to be, have these incredibly high numbers, and I can't have people taking so many pills per sitting. So I got them. I got them to drop down to 10. And if you didn't get it at 10, then you just stayed at 10. And then I realized 10's probably still too high for the average person. So let's just drop down to 5. And if you don't get it at 5, just consistently take 5 with every meal. And eventually, with everything else that you're doing, eventually you will create that warming sensation.
So the way that me personally, I got 23 per meal, 23 capsules of the stomach acid every meal, just right. So, but you and I, with the relationship that we had, that's why we went a little aggressive. So
right.
For everyone that's on the call, 2 quick things. Just like how Dr. Nander said, you've got to follow through with the protocol. You can't miss a couple of days and then go back. I use this analogy. It's almost like taking antibiotics, and how the doctor will say, you've got to take your script for 10 days or 14 days. And if you don't, it's going to create significant dysbiosis. And also the bacteria will become resistant to antibiotics, and then you'll need more. So it's kind of like that, where you need to stay consistent with these acid capsules, because if you don't, you're taking steps backward. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. And those steps, where I have seen them be the biggest is once people get down to that 1 and they go, I'm fantastic, I don't need any more. 6 months later, they're right back to wherever it was they were before, they started. So we don't want that. Once you get down to one and it's a problem, stop for a week, and then just add in one every meal, one every meal, one every meal until one becomes a problem again, and then take it out again for a week and keep going back and forth like that.
Yeah. And it's so, guys, don't worry. This is where we come in one-on-one periodically throughout. So don't worry about that, but it's just, you need to hear it from Dr. Nandor. You've got it in the program. It's in the print up, right, with the order of meals. So we won't carry on too much and focus on that. We're just going to keep on carrying on. So we talked about the stomach acid, and now we're going to go into what next?
Right. So the next phase of the digestive system is the small intestine. There's 3 parts to it. What happens is if you don't make enough stomach acid, then you will not activate the pancreas to make bicarbonate. And then if you don't make enough bicarbonate, then the pancreas will not make digestive enzymes. So this is why Brandon's giving you the M7s by Nature Farm, because they are a plant-based enzyme. And so they work in a pH of 2 to 14. So in the beginning, until you normalize your stomach acid and can activate the pancreas properly to make enough bicarbonate, it is at that time that we switch from the M7s to pancreatic enzymes, because pancreatic enzymes are what the body makes, not plant enzymes. We use the plant enzymes temporarily until we get stomach acid functioning properly, until we get pancreas functioning properly. Then we switch from the plant-based digestive enzymes, which are excellent, over to pancreatic ones, which is how the body was designed to work, pancreatic enzymes.
Okay, great. And as you know, and I'm just going to reiterate it, pretty much the reason why everyone enrolls in this program is because they have digestive disturbances, gas, heartburn, bloating, constipation or irregular bowel movements, chronic diarrhea. So although we haven't even talked about bowel movements yet, or we haven't talked about those problematic symptoms that I just listed, right? The gas and the bloating, all of this is designed to alleviate all of that just naturally. 100%.
100%. Exactly. So much changes once you start doing these basic fundamental things, right? Speaking of the next phase of the digestive tract, and we'll get back to the small intestine in a minute, but we want to make sure that you're not only taking good probiotics to create the microbiome diversity that we're looking for, but you're also eating foods that are also going to be contributing to this wonderful microbiome diversity that we're looking for. Because remember, your bugs eat what you eat. So as important as it is to take probiotics, if you take probiotics, but you're constantly eating foods that are destroying your GI, then it's a waste of time. You're much better off getting the diet right. The diet is first and foremost. What you eat, what you drink is first and foremost, even before we talk about supplementation. So I'm assuming that the diet is in place when we talk about taking probiotics and ensuring that we are feeding the colon properly. Moving back up to the small intestine, we want to do some gut healing. And the diet itself, the fasting, the intermittent fasting, the time restricted eating, these things will help heal the small intestine, the leaky gut. But we want to give a little additional support. And the 3 things that I've used for years, there's more, of course, but the 3 things is vitamin D, vitamin A, and iodine. And of course, vitamin D, A, and iodine do much more than heal leaky gut, but they do a good job at healing that leaky gut. So that's why I chose those 3.
Yeah, I actually forgot to mention, yes, probiotics are included. And I very much follow the 5 R's, the 5 steps in resetting digestion. That's my flagship presentation, but the first R is remove. So we're going to remove all of the assaulting foods. Then we're going to rest and repair. By that, I mean a strategic juice cleanse. So we're not only resting the complete GI, but we're repairing it simultaneously. And then the third one is reintroduce. So that's where we are right now with the strategic foods, prebiotic foods and carnivore and so forth. And then just as you mentioned, number 4 is re-inoculate with healthy bacteria. And then the 5th one is just retain and maintain. It's turning this into a lifestyle.
Well, it's interesting. The 5 R's are 5 R's, and it would seem that you they're 5 steps, but they're actually 5 things that you do all at the same time, really, right?
Sure.
Because they are all happening at the same time.
Yes. Right. Absolutely.
Or certainly, ideally, at least you want to be doing things to make sure that they're all happening at the same time.
Well, and that's just it, right? This is why you'd mentioned about the probiotics, and you're in practice, in my practice, I hear it all the time. People say, oh, I take probiotics, or I take enzymes, or I do this. And I say, those are great tools, but have you completely done a reset? Have you eliminated what's in your GI? Have you given yourself a restart? And of course, the answer is always no. So as you say so eloquently, with the foundation of a house, do you want to just mention that?
Yeah. It's my favorite one. So when you're building a house, the things that you do are not initially anyways, purchase furniture or light fixtures or paintings, or flooring. The first thing you do is you dig a hole and you lay the foundation. And that's what we are trying to do here as well, is foundationally speaking, address what's most important for the rest of your body. And that is the health of your gastrointestinal tract, starting from the mouth. Very, very important to understand, from the mouth all the way down to the other side. In my experiences, if you do not address the mouth the way that you should, the rest of your digestive tract will not be as healthy as it could be. In fact, very simply, look at their smile. If they have a fake smile, meaning, they've had cosmetic surgery or dentistry, that's a different story. But, someone who hasn't, look at their teeth. If they have, healthy teeth, then you know that that's a healthy individual, and that's at any age. So, we don't want to be losing our teeth, having our teeth pulled out, because every tooth is like a fuse. So it corresponds with organs and glands in the body. And you pull those teeth, and you're going to be experiencing some discomfort somewhere in your body. So you shouldn't have to be pulling your teeth.
I actually did a post. I'm going to mention the mouth twice now. I did a post on my Instagram a little while ago showing the root map of the nerves from the mouth to the brain and for the rest of the body. Would it be fair to say that it's almost the most intricate system of the whole body?
I don't know if it'd be the most intricate, but it's certainly up there, right? I mean, the body is incredibly intricate, right, and complex. But I think just what happens is, the mouth gets overlooked. I just brush my teeth with some fluoride toothpaste, and I go to bed.
Yeah,
no,
totally.
That's actually not what you want to do. You'd rather not brush your teeth than brush your teeth with fluoride toothpaste.
Yeah.
Right. So I know there are experts, professionals around the world who will absolutely say, if you don't have a healthy mouth, it's not possible to have a healthy body. And I would agree. I mean, because you can't have a healthy digestive tract. And if you can't have a healthy digestive tract, then the rest of the body's in trouble as well. So the mouth is extremely important, more important than people give it credit.
Very powerful. So actually, one thing that you and I both forgot is chewing practices and also drinking with meals. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, ideally, first of all, I think we're also used to doing something while we're eating, whether it be a conversation, watching TV, as opposed to, calmly breathing, focusing, making sure that you're chewing X number of times. Of course, this would be the ideal, right? So, Brennan, how many times would you say you want to chew your food before you swallow it? I would say more than the average person chews. So
some of the textbooks, all my teachers, yourself, I've heard anywhere between 20 to 30 to even 40 chews per bite,
which never happens.
So the first time I learned this, I implemented it, believe it or not, at a Wendy's drive-through, because I was in a rush, and it was literally like right after class, one of my first classes. And I tried to do that with a Wendy's burger. Chew, chew, chew. All of a sudden, I'm tasting these chemicals and plastics. And what are these tastes? And you realize that your saliva is so powerful at digesting the food. You're now extracting you're eliminating the fake flavors. And now the real true flavors are coming out. And it's all horrible. That, needless to say, that burger lasted. It didn't last. I threw it out. And to that day, I've practiced better chewing practices.
Well, that's a that's what you call it, an excellent example to learn from. I don't know if I've ever, when I do my cheat meals, and Wendy's is not, a place where I would go, but Harvey's. I like Harvey's because they've got the Angus burger, right? I mean, those Angus burgers go down real fast. There's no, chewing 20, 30, 40 times. They go down pretty quick. But, I will also say that I've got a pretty strong gastrointestinal tract, so I can get away with it a little bit more than the average person. But
we need to reinforce that you have done this. You live a gut-friendly lifestyle for more than 20 decades. You've been doing this, so you know what you can have as a cheat and so forth. So for everyone that's on the call, we're not doing that yet.
Not 20 decades, but 2 decades.
Okay, right, 20, yeah, 2 decades. My mistake. Also, for everyone that's on the call, and for next people that watch this, try this as an exercise. I want you to buy some raisins and get 1 or 2 raisins and just chew it 30 times. And what you'll taste is actually, you'll taste wine. It'll taste like wine because you're breaking down all the sugars to really the smallest common denominator, right? And that's the really cool thing when you taste a raisin and then it turns into essentially grape juice. So when you realize that and you do that, you'll have a whole different understanding and appreciation for chewing the food. And again, we need to emphasize that carbohydrates primarily are broken down initially in the mouth. They're not broken down in the stomach. So we need a lot of saliva to chew. And if we're like Homer Simpson and we're eating those 2-bite brownies, carbohydrates are not digesting at all.
That's for sure.
Right.
That's for sure. Yeah. I mean, that's why the stomach acid, you want to take HCl, betaine HCl capsules if you're consuming protein. If you're not consuming protein, then it isn't anywhere near as necessary because the protein needs the HCl.
Got it. Now that we're going to talk about micronutrients, and I guess we already talked about the probiotics, so we're not going to go into that anymore, but let's just talk, because there's 3 people on the call right now that have thyroid conditions. So why don't we talk about iodine and the connection with the thyroid, as well as selenium. We both mentioned that that's kind of one of our favorites. And then just some additional information, because now we're going to tie this into autoimmune. Now, we haven't talked about leaky gut and what that cascades into. So you can take it however which way you want, but those are some of the topics that I want to cover now.
Right. So the thyroid definitely loves a few different things. Vitamin D, vitamin A, iodine, selenium, right? And no question. But even before we get to that, so if we're talking about somebody who's got a thyroid problem, we definitely are talking about somebody who's got a leaky gut, and also somebody who's probably consuming gluten, right? Because the number one part of the body that the gluten affects is the thyroid. So if you have a clinical thyroid problem, you definitely have a leaky gut, and you definitely need to stop consuming gluten, right? So that's just, and remember, gluten is one form of lectins. So ideally, you want to avoid all forms of lectins and other anti-nutrients if you have a autoimmune issue. In this particular case, we're talking thyroid. Once you've done that, you've eliminated what's causing the problem, the thyroid itself will start to heal itself, will start to reset. But then giving it these nutrients that we are using to heal the gut, except for selenium, which is more for the thyroid, but vitamin A, vitamin D, iodine, all 3 of these things are fantastic for the thyroid. When you talk about T3, T4, the numbers, when you're talking about T3, T4, the numbers are with respect to how many iodine molecules are present within that thyroid hormone.
Okay, great.
So let me just
Sure.
say this. When there's a thyroid problem, there's usually an iodine deficiency, but that's not where to look, where we want to look first, because if we look at that, then what we're doing is we're symptom treating, and we don't want to symptom treat. We want to get to the root of the problem, which is what you're consuming and the integrity of your gut. Once we get that in place, then we add in the supplements. And in this particular case, we just so happen to be using the same supplements to heal the gut as we need to heal the thyroid.
Now, what if someone claims that they are conscious of their eating and they say that they're gluten-free and they have an autoimmune condition? Where can one look for hidden ingredients of gluten?
Well, remember, it's not just gluten, right? It's anything that has lectins in it. So lectins are the immune system of the plant. So if you're eating a plant-based diet, you can be definitely contributing to harming yourself through those, not just lectins, oxalates, phytates, phytic acids. There's a whole bunch of different ones. So this is why we talk about elimination diets, right? So the ultimate in elimination diet is the carnivore diet, where you eat nothing but meat. And when you do that, if you have been consuming foods that are contributing to your autoimmune disease, you will notice a significant shift when you start to consume meat only and eliminate those foods that are causing you problems. So I know Dr. Sean Baker, he mentioned an MD. He mentioned an MD who does food allergy testing. And over the course of 25 years, he's done a couple of 100,000 different types of tests on different people. And the one food that consistently came back as not being a problem is red meat. So red meat does not cause allergic reactions. That to me was surprising when I heard it. And the only reason I was surprised was because nobody had a problem with it. That is crazy. You over 20 years, a couple of 100,000 different tests, and not a single person with whatever their autoimmune issues were, not a single person had a problem with red meat. So that just goes to show you how beneficial red meat is. Red meat will not kill you. If you eat red meat with ice cream and donuts on a regular basis, that's a different story. But this is why carnivore or low lectin keto carnivore is very different, because what you are doing is you are eliminating those things that are harming you, and you are consuming those foods that are healing to your gastrointestinal tract. And so it's a little bit backwards to what we've always been taught. It really is. Put it into practice and you'll see for yourself.
And that's what's so exciting and so powerful about this program. And I'm going to fast track a little bit. And Dr. Nander, you know about this already, but everyone is going to learn from this guy right here, Dr. Sean Baker. That's who you just referenced. He's the author of this book. He is the leading authority on the carnivore diet. And through so many different studies and anecdotal evidence, it's really amazing what you're going to learn and what you're going to see next week when incorporating these practices. So you'd mentioned carnivore, and then you also mentioned lectins, Lectins. And for those that want to learn more, here's another reference. This is a book called The Plant Paradox by Dr. Stephen Gundry. And he is the authority on lectins. Just like Dr. Nandor said, lectins are the chemical defense system of plants, basically to prevent them from being eaten by their prey. And in the human case, the human is the prey. And if you continuously consume these high lectin plant sources, that will cascade into an ongoing immune response, which theoretically will lead to an autoimmune condition.
Well, what it will actually do before the autoimmune condition is it creates the leaky gut, which then results in the inflammatory cascade of events in the autoimmune condition. And of course, what autoimmune condition, whatever you are genetically susceptible to, or whatever you've inherited from your mom and dad. But the key is, it doesn't matter what you've inherited. What matters is what you are consuming and what kind of an internal environment you are creating, so that your body responds either in a positive way or in a negative way. If it responds in a negative way, then you're going to end up with some type of an autoimmune illness, maybe something as simple as, seasonal allergies, and then it will develop into something much more as you get older, right?
Well, yeah. And what a perfect segue to now explain and teach what leaky gut is and how this whole inflammatory process works.
Well, so basically the cells of the digestive tract are held together by adhering junctions. And those adhering junctions get damaged by lectins, would be one of the things that does it, and other kinds of anti-nutrients. And when you damage these adhering junctions, the cells of the digestive tract, they separate. So now you start to have food particles being absorbed paracellularly in between the cells, as opposed to transcellularly through the cells. So it's supposed to go through the cells, make their way through the liver. Liver cleans it up and then sends it back through the digestive tract, and wherever else it's going to send nutrients throughout the body. But if you've got a leaky gut, then you're bypassing this system, and you've got 80% of your immune system that lines the gastrointestinal tract. So as soon as you move through the leaky gut, the immune system responds, builds antibodies against these foods, and the next time you have those foods, boom, you have an autoimmune reaction. So, the way that mainstream medicine wants to shut that down is they want to go downstream to the problem, whatever the autoimmune situation is, and medicate that. What functional medicine says is heal the leaky gut first and foremost, calm down the immune system, eliminate the antibodies. And over time, once your hyperintestinal permeability is zipped up and no longer exists, then from time to time you can go ahead and indulge, or quote unquote have some cheat meals. But until that happens, you want to stay nice and strict. It doesn't take long. 30, 60. I like 90 days. Brandon likes 45 days. I like 90 just because it gives a little bit more time, for us to accomplish what we're looking for. But it works, and it works well for everyone.
Absolutely. Why don't we quickly, because this is a theme, this is what I love about doing these groups, just how miraculously I've got 3 people on the call, all challenged with the same issue. And last group, it was another common challenge, but it had nothing to do with the thyroid. So pardon me, can you talk about, again, leaky gut, molecular mimicry, and the thyroid? And I'm just going to say, on a previous a case study that I had, she was a professional model and a hair model, which meant she put on makeup every day and she dyed her hair at least once a month. She did this for years and years and years. And then she developed Hashimoto's thyroid condition. So do you want to talk about molecular mimicry? And I know, and I don't have these studies with me in front of me, but there are a lot of studies correlating synthetic makeup and hair dye with Hashimoto's. So do you want to just maybe quickly talk about that?
Well, any kind of chemical, and we live in a sea of chemicals. I believe there was a reference I remember probably 15 years ago in a functional medicine conference. We're swimming in 87,000 different chemicals, and so those chemicals, they mimic or look very similar to certain hormones and neurotransmitters that the body produces. So this is where the molecular mimicry can cause some confusion within the body. And of course, this is all due to not living a gut-friendly lifestyle. You're bringing in chemicals that are harmful to your gastrointestinal tract, and those things are going to be harmful to the rest of your body, partly through molecular mimicry. When you look at the thyroid with respect to lectin's a perfect example. The antibodies that the body makes in response to gluten, which is a lectin, attacks the thyroid because the gluten looks very, very similar to the thyroid. So the body doesn't know the difference between gluten and thyroid. So if you eat the gluten, you have the antibodies present, boom, you're going to have an attack on the thyroid as well as the gluten itself. And it may settle in other places like joints, and you have arthritis and so on and so forth. So take out the gluten, and slowly but surely those antibodies disappear. Now, here's the thing. If you add gluten back in, no big deal after you have healed your gut. But if you consistently go back to a non-gut friendly existence, then guess what's going to happen? You're going to go back to being exactly where you were before you started. So Um, your ability to heal yourself, take control of your own health is within your own hands. It's all up to you. You just need the information. We provide the information. Brandon provides the information. You learn it and you apply it. So there's a big difference between, giving you fish and teaching you how to fish. And what we try to do is we try to teach people how to fish so that they can take care of themselves long-term. Take control of your health, as Dr. Mercola likes to say.
Absolutely. And one of the fun things about this, again, on the 6th week, they're going to learn from Dr. Tom O'Brien, who is arguably the gluten guy around the world in functional medicine. And he 100%. Also references a lot of studies from Dr. Alessio Fasano, who you also know very well. So, and just talking about, I'm going to go completely off course just because I'm making a visual observation right now. Talking about being independent and being educated. Elaine just tuned into the call, and she was one of my participants of my previous 45-day gut reset. And she's so inspired that she wants to pursue education and educating herself more in the functional medicine and holistic nutrition space. Isn't that right, Elaine? Pretty inspiring.
Fantastic. Yes. I mean, I've had a number of people that I've worked with.
There she is. Are you there?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So, hold on a second.
There you are.
I had a call coming in. I just had spent some time out west, and just different people had different diets and dietary issues. And I tried sharing my knowledge that I had learned. And so, I mean, I know I'm not a doctor, so I think that they have a hard time with taking advice from me, but yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, is it Elaine?
Yes.
Elaine, so when you see somebody with an MD beside their name, that really means don't listen to them when it comes to nutrition, because it's not their area of expertise. Now, Dr. Sean Baker, who is an MD and wrote the Carnivore Diet book, he's very knowledgeable in nutrition. And it's not because he went to medical school. It has nothing to do with going to medical school. So, oftentimes you're going to find people like yourself who know way more about this information than your average MD, unless they have gone and studied functional medicine, or they've gone and studied natural medicine, or they've educated themselves, read, books and figured things out on their own, because their general understanding basically is this. In medical school, they are taught that the brains of the cell is the DNA. So if the brains of the cell is the DNA, then what you eat and drink and think and do and feel and say and exercise and sleep and all these wonderful things doesn't matter, because the DNA is going to express based on whatever is locked in there that you inherited from your parents, right? So if that was the case, then they would be absolutely right in that, natural medicine would play very little role, but that's not the way the body works. The brains of the cell is the cell membrane, and the cell membrane surveys its environment, and then it tells the DNA what to express, whether it expresses health or disease. Now, Elaine, who's in control of your internal environment? In other words, who's in control of what you eat, what you drink, what you think, how you exercise, right? How you talk, right? How you sleep, all these bathroom movements, bowel movements, all these things are totally up to you. Right. So that's the difference. So once an MD comes to this conclusion, then they are going to start really referencing and reading up on stuff, because they have just now opened Pandora's box and realized that they only received partial education in med school, one that is conducive to prescribing medications, right? And that is in line with prescribing medications, but that's the model. So we need to understand that. And, it's like I've told many people, you don't have to have multiple degrees in this field. You don't have to study functional medicine for 15, 20 years. All you really have to do is understand the basics. If you understand the basics, you can teach the basics. First of all, you're going to help yourself if you understand the basics a great deal, because again, you're going to heal your gut. And if you heal your gut, the rest of your body will respond in kind. And as you do this for yourself, you'll be able to teach this to other people. So as it was Brandon pointed out that I said, physiology, biochemistry, and all the sciences are infinitely complex when it comes to the human body, but health is not. So you just need to understand what it is that we need to do from a very fundamental perspective, apply that on a daily basis, and then just watch to see what happens for yourself.
Right. Yeah, no, I can definitely feel a difference or see a difference in my throat area in regards to what I was before. And once I went through the first 45 days with Brandon.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks, Elaine. Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine.
Thanks.
All right. So, and on that note, this is just kind of a segue, and it hasn't happened yet, but I'm working on it. I'm obviously collaborating with Dr. Nandor and many other individuals. I'm turning this program, this 45-day program, into a diploma 1-year program. And Dr. Nandor, as you always say, that people like myself are on the front line when it comes to health. So I want to try to turn this into a curriculum where graduates can literally be the front line, the new age doctors, but all about nutrition and gut health. So guys, you're learning some of the most incredible information, and it will change your life. And I'll say it again, and I'll say it again, and I'll say it again. My job is to educate you so much and provide you with so much information that you can become independent from me, but at the same time, decide to go in any which direction that you've learned that you resonate with, and continue to educate yourself and teach others and inspire others through your successes. So this is not just a cookie cutter program. If you do this properly, it will change your life, and it'll change your complete outlook and paradigm on nutrition and your overall health.
Yes, 100%. 100%. If you do this correctly, you can't it can't be any other way. You know, there are some outliers who are a little bit more difficult, who have a little bit more difficult time in experiencing the benefit. And it just takes a little bit longer, but that's okay. The majority respond very well.
So on that note, we've reached the hour. Dr. Nandor, is there anything that you would like to conclude or give for further points of advice for everyone that's on the call? Again, to reiterate or just repeat everything. They've done the juice cleanse. They're starting with the keto carnivore week 1 with intermittent fasting. Everyone's going to start with the supplements. So again, first meal, you're going to take some digestive enzymes midway through. With your last bite, you're going to take one of those acid pro capsules. With your second meal, you're going to continue with those enzymes, and then you're going to take 2 of those acid pro capsules, and then continue to follow that way through until you get to 5. We're using micronutrients in vitamin A, vitamin D, iodine, and then we're reestablishing our gut health with healthy probiotics and prebiotic food. They're going to enjoy some reishi coffee down the road, and they're going to learn each week through some incredible teachers and different nutritional strategies. What else?
Well, what I would say is, to me, I like to go from point A to point B, straightest line possible. And that is the carnivore diet. Because the carnivore diet is the ultimate elimination diet. So I used to, years ago, when working with people who I just didn't know what to do with, what we would do is we would get them to drink whey shakes. Just drink whey shakes, because it's whey is basically protein broken down to some extent, or it's in a position that can be broken easily down, and we can bypass some of these allergic reactions that we are seeing with other foods. So that's what I was doing many years ago. I didn't realize that if you just ate meat, that was the ultimate elimination diet. You didn't have to just put a couple of scoops of protein powder into water, drink that, which is not very satiating. You know, sometimes we had to do that many years ago because the person just had no other options. I mean, even almost water, they would have a reaction to, right? So now that we've discovered that we can consume meat as much as we want, any kind of meat, and if you just do that on its own, it's extremely healing to the gut for 2 reasons. 1, because you've taken out anything and everything that could be harmful. And 2, meat heals. It does not kill unless you eat it with donuts and ice cream and a whole bunch of other things. And you, you know, you like to eat your meat really well charcoaled, right? So I think that's really, really important to understand, because it's very, very powerful information. Anything that's extreme oftentimes is questionable, and the carnivore diet is definitely extreme, but it's not questionable. There are tens of thousands of people. If you look on Facebook, there are a number of different groups, and you listen to their or read their stories. You can go to meatrx.com. They've got success stories there. That's Dr. Sean Baker's site. You can't tell me that these tens of thousands, and by now we're probably over 100,000 people that switched to the carnivore diet, and whatever chronic illness that they had completely went away. They came off all of their meds. They look 10 years younger. You know, so many wonderful benefits from the carnivore diet. Now, listen, if you're a vegetarian or a vegan and you want to stay vegetarian, vegan, that's totally up to you. The main thing is that you just understand what we are trying to teach here.
Well, and really fun. My last group, we actually had 2 vegetarians, and they were much older. They were in their mid 60s, husband and wife. And they were so committed. They did the carnivore and they enjoyed it. They did see some benefits, and they do very much enjoy their vegetarian diet, but they've changed it now. And they're very cognizant of the consumption of red meat, and they have incorporated it into their life a lot more, especially now that we've reestablished their stomach acid, right? Because as we age, that decreases.
So that's even more so of a problem.
Yeah. And that's just it, right? So we're just trying to provoke new thinking. And if we can do that, and with building some new habits, then it's mission accomplished. So on that note, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to stick around and answer questions and give some more guidance for the rest of the participants. But I know your time is valuable. So thank you all so much. Or thank you, Dr. Nander. I want to put you on gallery view, and you all can unmute yourselves and say goodnight to Dr. Nander.
Good night. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, guys.
Thank you, Dr. Nander.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Remember,
Thank you.
meat heals.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Okay. Dr. Nander, good seeing you. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thanks again.
Sounds good.
Okay. Good night.
Bye, guys. Thanks for
See you.
having me.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
All right. I'm going to stop recording.